Our generation will witness a very curious phenomena, to have an incarnation of a fallen angel, moreover the devil himself, walking and talking amongst us in a human body.
This video will be the first half of the information I could find about him, and it will cover his family background and then the tricks he will be using to get elected by the people as king of the entire earth, and then his coronation ceremony. As usual, the sources will be
gathered from Islamic, biblical, Catholic and Orthodox prophecies.
Actually, according to all these sources, there will be multiple incarnations of the devil at the same time, not just one. So when you see all these articles that Bill Gates is the Antichrist or some other similar devil, that is also true. However, there will be one single central and most important Antichrist, and this video is about that particular person. A good number of Christian and Islamic sources talk about the family background of the Dajjal, and it always, almost always boils down to some location in the Middle East. The Yehudi quarters of the town of Isfahan in Iran are most often mentioned, but they are not the only location related to his origin. Khorasan in Afghanistan is also sometimes mentioned. Maybe we have a number of locations, and he might have been born at one of them. At another one he might have studied, yet another one might be related to his career. But they're all in the same region, and the bloodline in which he will come is most definitely by both Islamic and Christian sources that of the Yehud tribe. You can find more about that tribe in the search engines. It is important because his supporters will be also mainly from that tribe, and in addition the crowd around him is described as singers, alcoholics, women and devils.
The faces of his soldiers are described as resembling flat beaten shields. And interestingly enough, I've heard that indeed in these regions mentioned of Kerman, there are indigenous tribes which have this peculiar shape of their faces. Also, a large multitude of women will become his supporters. They will be lured by him, but not in a romantic sense. Most likely he will promise them gender-related liberties and privileges, to the point that the men will be forced to tie their mothers, daughters and sisters down to prevent them from going to him. In the description of this video you can find the link with all the exact Muslim sources quoted, and as far as the Catholic prophecies, they all come from the Catholic sources, the links to which I provided in the previous episodes. This is a very old Catholic prophecy, again mentioning locations related to the Antichrist in those very same regions, Khorasan and Vitae. A very good number of Orthodox prophecies definitely speak about his Yehud origin. Here they also say that his mother will be unchaste lady, being the 12th generation of unchaste women in her family. These four countries will play the main role in the appearance of the Antichrist: Iran, Israel, Egypt and Syria. This was another Orthodox quote. When you see anything in Slavic writing, it means it's Orthodox, and there are so many of this type of Orthodox prophecies. If you want to find the exact sources, just use any search engine and type in Пророчество старцев, печать Антихриста. Mary Julie Jehani, whom I consider one of the most reliable sources,
says that the enemy of God will pass through Persia. This may refer to his origin.
18th century prophecy from Italy. Many lands will tremble. The sea is crazy. One deep plough will pass in the lands of the world. The great serpent will be born in the east. And another very old prophecy from a very credible and verified source actually says that he will be born of a Yehud woman, a false virgin who will be in communication with the ancient serpent, master of impurity. At birth he will vomit blasphemies and will have teeth. To say in short, he will be the devil incarnate. He will utter terrifying cries. He will work wonders. He will live only on impurities. He will have brothers who, although not incarnate devils like himself, will be children of evil. At the age of 12, they will be noted for the violent victories they will win. Soon they will be each at the head of armies assisted by legions from hell. The seasons will be changed, the earth will produce only bad fruits, the heavenly bodies will lose the regularity of their movements, the moon will reflect only a feeble reddish light, water and fire will lend convulsive motions to the earth's sphere, causing mountains and cities to be swallowed up.
Now, what does the Bible itself say about the ethnic origin of the Antichrist? Well, to start with, I think it's an outstanding heroism to try to study the Bible, keeping in mind its confusing language, but the best attempt I've seen so far is in this book, and you can download it for free here. So as far as the father's side, it sounds like some sort of artificial insemination. I don't know if it is in the sense of these modern procedures of insemination in a hospital, or some sort of black magic of entirely different kind. But in any case, there are also a number of prophecies indicating some sort of strange conception on the father's side, while on his mother's side, according to the Bible study as well, we see the very same ethnic origin as with all the other prophecies listed earlier. And as far as Judaism, it originally grew on the soil of Islam. And in those early days, the teachings of the rabbis were way more similar to Islam than they are now. So what is the situation with the Messiah figure in Islam? There are actually two Messiahs in Islam. One of them is the Antichrist, whose full proper name is Al-Masih al-Dajjal, and the other Messiah is Isa bin Maryam, Jesus Christ. But it seems that the word Messiah originally meant that the person under question is an incarnation of somebody. And that's why we have the incarnation of the top deceiver. That's what Al-Dajjal means, an incarnation of the Shaitan, which is pretty close to the meaning of devil incarnate as we have in Christianity. So in Islam they see Isa bin Maryam as the incarnation of the divine guidance and Al-Masih al-Dajjal as the incarnation of the great deceiver of misguidance. And probably that's why there is no surprise that in very old Hebrew books like this one, Talmud, we read about two messiahs. And one of these two messiahs listed by them will indeed come in what they call the Davidic line. And some Islamic scholars find it quite interesting that this Isfahan community actually it originates it has some connection with Babylon, from where the Davidic line actually originates. But again, please keep in mind that this story with the two messiahs in Judaism is very old and currently considered like an outdated story. It is not the modern perspective. So what will be the destiny of the Jewish people, keeping all this in mind? Well, here is one of the numerous prophecies. They all say the same thing. Those of them who remain loyal to the benevolent God and do not take the stamp and the doctrines of the Antichrist, they will be saved. They can enter the new earth, or they will be getting to the beautiful realms of the universe if they happen to die during the tribulation. And those who do follow the Dajjal, they will go to the dark regions. The Dajjal followers will have no place in the new earth for sure. Actually, the Bible even gives the exact number of 144,000 from the tribes of Israel who will have the divine seal of protection of the benevolent God. As you can see in the news headlines, there is lots of violent rioting in Israel, because the society is extremely polarized already, and after the coronation of Dajjal in Jerusalem, it will be even worse. In the Bible there are hints about attempts to overthrow him from within Israel. But the people at that future moment, which will be probably around 10 years from now, they will not understand what is actually happening, because the disinformation will be much more stronger and influential at that time compared to what we have now. At least you can hear my video. While by the time the Dajjal actually comes, prophecies about him will be forgotten and the preachers will not mention him anymore. And during the last decades, they are already working hard on the task of the preachers not mentioning him anymore. This is one of the ways they do it. And of course, Islamic videos on this subject are routinely being removed from YouTube under the pretext of hate speech, even when people simply quote and read from their old holy books. Something which they have been free to do for centuries, but now they cannot do it. Although the Dajjal will be relatively young during his 3.5 years long reign over the earth, he will not be able to have children, and we have 4 Islamic quotes supporting this, while the Bible tells us that he will have no desire for women. Well, no wonder, because in his original form as neither female nor male donkey, he seems like the perfect candidate to have an incarnation as pervert on earth. After all, his own men, whom he has employed to prepare the stage for him, they're all perverts of one type or another. And maybe that's why, like, covetously, without giving it much publicity, they have been gradually reducing the legal punishments for pedophilia, while at the same time, according to the new laws, one can lose everything in life just for using one single photograph, even for non-commercial use online. And even without anybody seeing it, one can lose everything and even end up in jail, because the fines can be that high that many people are not even worth that much to pay the fines for copyright infringements. And at the same time, they're making the penalties for pedophilia milder. According to the Islamic sources, he will be a young man with a ruddy complexion, short, with thick curly hair and wide forehead, wide upper chest, blind or defective right eye. There will be a thick piece of flesh growing at the edge of his left eye, and written on his forehead will be kafar, which means grand deceiver, and the saintly people will be able to read that even if they are illiterate, while those who are his followers, the deluded, they will not see it at all. The official premiere of Dajjal on the world politics stage will be right in the middle of the tribulation, But before that happens, because he knows that his kingdom will be very short-lived, he will have everything already set and prepared for him by his minor incarnations, also his human servants and the incarnations of other devils on earth. Plus, he will arrange for 3 consecutive years of severe drought, which will cause worldwide famine, which will happen to coincide with the Third World War, which will wipe out 1/3 or even half of the world's population. So this combination of these 2 factors by itself will be enough to make most people desperate. And these 2 factors by themselves will be more than enough for the majority of people to accept anything, including the laser stamp of the devil on their foreheads, just to have something to eat immediately and to avoid further wars. This will be something like initial sifting. Those souls who are absolutely immersed in bodily existence and don't even care for any spiritual practice to understand and experience the real eternal validity of their own souls, the type of people who will readily vow to join the gang of criminal devils just for the price of a couple of months of luxurious meals, this type of students will be ineligible to enter the New Earth, so they will simply not pass the exam, they will take the mark. But that will be one of the relatively easier problems, tasks, which one will be given during the exam. Like, we have seen already how they restrict us with, for example, our movement, with all kinds of borders and visas. Also the food supply, which is a critical problem for those who do not have a patch of land especially. They control the airspace, the water supply. In many countries one cannot freely dig well even on one's own property. And currently we see more and more what does it mean to not get proper information on what is going on Earth. But the most sinister that they will try to do is to tamper with our very thinking process. And they will use powerful technology in 2 ways. The first way probably will be as described in the previous episodes for those who take the new documents, the new whatever passports or health passes or whatever nonsense they decide to call them. Those who fall in that trap, they will have these devilish frequencies directly really imposing thoughts in their own heads, and they won't be aware that these are not their own thoughts just because they think them. So they think if I think it, it means it's me, but it won't be you. And the other way was predicted, recorded in many centuries old prophecy. Everything one does will be absolutely recorded. Not only what he does, but how he lives, and every single word, and even every inner sentiment will be recorded and also punishable. And in this way, people will unlearn to think for themselves out of fear that on his face may get reflected a thought which is not in unison with the will of the universal king, the Antichrist. Every inch of land and every grain of food will be under the control of the Antichrist. Now, that is 600 years old Byzantine prophecy. In the more recent prophecies of Utrok Vyacheslav, we find even more details. He said that they will have some sort of technology which will record very well everything that is spoken in any premise, any room, any house, anywhere on earth. Even on the streets and in open air, people will try to whisper when they talk with each other because they will know that everything is recorded. In the Nina prophecies, she also gave an example how is it gonna work practically. It is very bad, but don't worry, it won't be as bad in the other lands. So the scene that she was shown was of a family drinking tea in the evening. So the man of the family, as they were drinking tea, said, "Oh, the government lied to us about this again." He just reported one of the countless lies of the government. And that was all. There was no follow-up from the others, but in 15 minutes they broke in their house and shot everybody at the spot. Because everything in every room, in every building on earth will be recorded. In the other lands, this type of extreme terror will be only at the very, very end of the Great Tribulation, only for a couple of weeks or months. Here in this video they are assuring us that the people in some university are now absolutely happy and feeling absolutely secure from everything just because of the new monitoring system, which doesn't need any sort of tokens or cards. It recognizes you automatically even if you wear a mask and even if you hide most of your face. I wonder how difficult it will be to add a module to this surveillance system, which also reads people's emotions. Such softwares already exist. So the biblical and many other prophecies also tell us that there will be laws that will oblige everybody to report to the police, even his own children, brothers, sisters, parents, if they do anything against the Antichrist. And they're beginning slowly to implement these things now. They're encouraging to spy on one's neighbors if they wear masks properly. Now, this prophecy explains why they will destroy the current financial system. The crisis will destroy the values of all the leading world currencies and will dismantle the entire economic and financial system of the countries. As a result, the economies of all countries will be ruined, for the flow of money is as important for them as the flow of blood for the human body. That will result in an absolute chaos everywhere. And out of this chaos will rise the Antichrist, claiming that he will save the world for good. When you hear about the absolute financial crash, know that his arrival is very near. The Islamic prophecies, which are somewhat older, they use a simpler language, but I think it means the same. They say that one of the final signs will be that the marketplaces will become closed. Yes, free buying and selling for cash will be absolutely impossible, and they're already working for it. Here, gradually, they are making illegal, at least in Russia, all kinds of prepaid cards, like, for example, the ones you use to for buying tickets for the tube, the underground, this type of thing. They're all banned unless you pay and identify yourself properly. In other words, you can't buy even 50 cents bus ticket without fully identifying yourself. And of course, the type of people who give too much importance to money, immediately they will see it only as the greediness of the banks, because now they introduce other services and charge for that. And this type of people don't see the big picture. They don't ask themselves, why are the banks ordered to do such things all around the world constantly, and who orders them to do that, and why exactly? And they are actively working on installing such a digital cobweb of tracking every soul on earth, even at the remote places. This is of utmost importance for them, because the count of the souls which they will eventually drag to hell, that is what matters to them. That is the main thing. And they will spread this cobweb in the developing countries much easier, because in those regions the people don't have well-established banking systems and do not understand very well how fair banking should work. So it's very easy to just hand out smartphones to the people and teach them just enough to the level of how to buy and sell with them. That's all. And the souls of these people will be trapped, and they will not even understand. They do not have even the capacity to understand all the technological and organizational complexity of the trap in which they have fallen. While in the countries where the people understand the principles of banking and finance, there it will be more difficult, and that's why the servants of the Antichrist, they are acting in a very sly manner. And I even read in the Orthodox prophecies that now and then they will make such stupid laws that one will just fall off one's chair when hearing about such unbelievable nonsense, just to check to what extent people have grown stupid and how much will they tolerate when they come up with the extreme, unbelievable nonsense of the Dajjal system. Some time ago, Bill Gates visited India to make experiments of how people will react to nonsense and sudden changes in the currency. And on the notice of 4 hours, he removed from circulation 86% of the cash banknotes in India. That created such a chaos. And the pretext was ridiculous, that he will fight corruption by removing banknotes which had the value of like $7, $9, $12 each. Actually, these are exactly the small banknotes that the ordinary people use. The really corrupted big criminals, they use other banknotes or simply pure gold. That is still very much prevalent in India. So this type of experiment shows that they may switch to cashless society within hours' notice or on immediate notice. Anything is possible. It is not at all clear if turning one's savings into gold and silver will have any use for those who do not plan to accept the mark of the beast, because there could be a short window during this financial chaos when one will be allowed to sell one's gold and silver, physical gold and silver. Maybe, or maybe not, maybe they will make it like on immediate notice and only the marked people will be able to buy or sell anything at all. Here, courts in Siberia are already questioning people who refuse vaccination, already in the court. It seems they're really in a hurry. Here, the biggest bank in Russia, now based on some 3 years old law, is refusing cash transaction on all its counters. Now you can just only receive your salary and then use it with a card. This is a photograph of the actual printouts that they put on all the counters. I don't know, but the winds of change can turn into storm any time now. So, what will the Dajjal do during the pre-tribulation? Well, he will participate in one capacity or another in making this 7-year peace treaty called covenant in the Bible. Will he sign it personally, or the so-called false prophet, who is also a type of incarnation of quality of the devil or something like that? It's not clear, but this entire mafia is behind this treaty. And that's why the party who organized the first 2 world wars and is actively organizing the third, coming very soon, that party owning the media is telling us that those who are signing it are true peace seekers. These are some hints from the Bible in terms of how during the pre-tribulation period the Dajjal will gradually take control of all the political powers on earth, practically. So what they call the South Coalition in this chart will be the group of countries, or I don't know, armies, which will fight continuously against Dajjal throughout the entire 7 years of the tribulation. It's not clear who except the future Muslim Caliphate will participate in that coalition, but basically the overall story which the Bible tells is same like the story from the Muslim sources. They will be fighting the Dajjal throughout the entire pre-tribulation and the Great Tribulation, and they will be always defeated again and again, and only at the very end, when everything seems absolutely lost, they will have the final victory because of Isa bin Maryam. Another sign of the arrival of the Antichrist will be that All of a sudden, they will start repairing all churches and temples. The domes will be golden or gold-plated. Everything will be very luxurious. He will, of course, order his people to do that because he knows that he will be shortly after that worshipped in those very same temples. Before the Antichrist, there will be a war of great slaughter. It will dissolve all national borders. They will be sweeping out the borders only so that the Antichrist can walk everywhere without any obstacle. 10 kings will be left after the war. They will make a peace treaty and will appoint the Antichrist as the supreme king. They will surrender their authority to him. Europe will be forced to unite because of the World War. It will be like one single country all the way from Turkey to Norway. And of course everything is in full accord with America. So the Antichrist comes exactly when everything is perfectly prepared to him. Everything is centralized and all the people are well accounted for, because they will give to everybody a card with their own number, and everything will be in that card, including the way they should be thinking. So in the Mahdi episode with the Islamic prophecies, we saw that one of the major signs before the appearance of the Dajjal will be the takeover of Istanbul. Here, absolutely independent Orthodox source talks about the same thing. He says even that the Dajjal will be present at the Istanbul battle, and from there they will all go to Jerusalem. It seems that Turkey will turn into one big arena for battles. And here is one of the sources mentioning that Turkey will cease to be a country. Some of the territories will become independent, and most of them will be swallowed up by the neighboring countries. And then he mentions a point about the Jews, which I found in many other sources, some of which are very reliable. I think Irmeyer also mentioned that prior to the official appearance of the Antichrist, they will offer to everybody who is willing to join a very prosperous and rich life in Israel, so all the Jews will return there. In prophecies from many countries, I saw that there isn't a single Jew left in their land anymore. They all left happily. Now, a big number of prophecies say that there will be kind of a short, good period between the pre-tribulation and the Great Tribulation, when everything will be fine and people will manage to return to normal life. And that will be because of the divine intervention of what in the Catholic prophecies is called the Great Monarch, and in the Orthodox prophecies they call him the Pious King. Now, all the detailed prophecies say that this will be a very short period, because the entire tribulation will be like 7 years, so a short break should be like months or maximum a year. But there are also two prophecies. One is Catholic and it says it will be 25 years, and the other one is Orthodox and it says it will be even 15 years. Sadly, there is little hope that it will be like this, because the two prophecies are of kind of confused language, and also they mention the other world wars, and most likely it is either mistranslation or confusion between the different world wars. But anyhow, there will be such a period of rest and prosperity and rebuilding, it seems. This king will be appointed by God himself somewhere in Eurasia. More details about that in the episode with the Nina prophecies. But it seems that even the Antichrist will be afraid to appear openly and officially until the king is there, and that's why it seems they will call him as if to negotiate with this revived European Union, but in reality they will just assassinate him, and after that the Antichrist will openly appear. And during that revival period, it seems, all these sources say that this well-famous prophecy of the gospel, the true gospel, being preached all over the world might be taking place. And Nina gives us hope even that this gospel will not be any Catholic or Orthodox gospel, but the original gospel before the church or whatever agents edited it. That will be covered in detail in the future episodes. And sadly, we even arrived at the point when the devil will become openly the king of earth for 3.5 years. Towards the end of the pre-tribulation and during the first part of the Great Tribulation, the lands around Jerusalem will be very prosperous and rich, as it has been promised to them. Because in that place shall rise a contemptible person to whom the royal majesty has not been given. He shall come in without warning and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Armies shall be utterly swept away before him and broken. This prophecy says that they will make it visa-free to visit Jerusalem, so that anybody from all over the world will be able to attend the opulent coronation ceremony in the newly built temple. However, we have been warned not to attend the coronation ceremony or any other of the speeches or the performances of the Antichrist, because whoever listens to his ideologies in person, even out of curiosity, he will be marked. During the coronation ceremony, the Antichrist will wear gloves, and as he takes them off during the course of the ritual, the patriarch will notice that on his hands he doesn't have nails but claws. That will assure the patriarch that this is indeed the Antichrist and not a holy person, and he will exclaim in front of everybody, "This is the devil indeed," and for that he will be murdered on the spot. During the coronation ritual, the Antichrist will start reading a Christian hymn, but when he reaches the passage which proclaims Jesus Christ to be the Son of God, he will not read, but instead of that he will proclaim himself to be God. This Orthodox prophecy somewhat resembles the story of the two witnesses, which also appear to be slain by the Antichrist himself during his coronation ceremony in the magnificent newly built temple. Because these two witnesses, according to the Bible, will also try to expose the Antichrist in front of everybody during this most important for him ceremony. Also in the Islamic sources, they have a story which somewhat resembles that. So this coronation ceremony will be the official beginning of the Great Tribulation, when there will be even greater difficulties than those experienced in the pre-tribulation. Two witnesses mentioned in the Bible, about which it seems all commentators agree that these are Enoch and Elijah, they will try to alert everybody on earth that this is the cursed devil and his marking is cursed and your soul will be cursed if you accept it. Of course, that will make the disgusting beast very angry, and it seems he will kill them with his own hands right on the spot. And this prophecy says that it will be even all broadcasted on TV. When the famous icon of Our Lady of Iveran at Mount Athos in Greece decides to leave the place because it will be turned into a tavern for tourists, the church bell will start singing and the churches will bow down visibly to bid her farewell, and all this will be broadcasted on TV. This icon is believed to be painted by Luke, one of the original writers of the Old Gospels. Now, the previous prophecy was made obviously in times when people knew what is TV, but even the prophets of earlier times saw that. Listen to this. When the Antichrist arrives, all the people on earth will see him at the same time in their own homes. So since this was a pre-TV era, the people were asking him, how is that gonna happen? And he explained that in the same way as now in the houses in the corners we have icons with our Lord, in the same way the people in those future times, instead of that in the corners, they will have special objects which will fog their minds. The people of that time will say that we always want to know the new things, and therefore out of that object the Antichrist will appear in front of them. Other prophecies also describe the TV sets as icons of the Antichrist, icons in the sense of image for religious worship. And after the Antichrist sits on his cursed throne, then the sea will start boiling exactly as water boils in a pot. It will boil and evaporate, and it will disappear from the face of the earth. The earthly plants will die. Because of the heat of the sea, everything will dry up. The water veins will disappear. The birds, the animals, and reptiles, they will all die. Every day will feel as if it is 1 hour long. Every week will feel as if it was 1 day long. And the year will be like 1 month. The cunning evil in the hearts of man has caused that all the elements will become tense and will be in even greater hurry and even more disastrous. Even the sea and the air will mourn the great sorrow. The sun will mourn, and even the wild beasts together with the birds will cry. The mountains and the hills will mourn and cry, and even the fruit trees, and all this because of the clan of the humans, who betrayed the benevolent saintly God and instead of that believed in the lies of the deceiver and the enemy of everything godly. And this deceiver will make war with the saints and overcome them and will have authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation. And all these wars, disasters, the entire tribulation, it's induced. It's made on purpose, organized by the Antichrist. Why? For one single and simple reason, so that they take the vow that they become his followers, all the souls on earth. That's what he is interested in, and that's what he will get. That's absolutely sure, just by looking at the people around. There was a movie, I don't remember its name, but they caught a guy and made an entire reality, like a movie props, entire town with actors who were pretending to be people doing their daily chores, and this entire village, the place, was just made around him to experiment with him. They even made a sky out of paper, or I don't know what kind of material, but he was completely like caged inside. But all the people around him, because they were actors, they were pretending as if they're doing their normal life and not that they're acting. The guy in that movie eventually figured out the deceit and managed to break out of that artificial dome with the sky and everything and go to the what we call real world. Anyway, this movie is just an analogy. So in the absolutely same manner, our entire human race within a couple of years will be placed in such a artificially created world, and they will play a horror movie this time, very, very scary one. And what will happen during this 7-year play theater experiment is that actually very, very few people will figure out that it is all artificial. Most of us will be so mesmerized and carried away by the swift action and drama developing all around that they will never even think deeply enough who and why stages all this. And ultimately, it is not even the devil who staged all this. The very root original reason for staging is our benevolent creator, because it is very famous nowadays for the people to say that God has created us to make us like co-creators of worlds and realities. Now that's absolutely so, but because the benevolent creator, for him, the most important is that all further creation should expand in harmony and beauty. He doesn't want new co-creators who will create nightmare worlds. That's why now is the test time for the co-creators, and now it will transpire who has learned this most important lesson: never to surrender and to join a criminal gang. No matter what happens, even if they kill your current body, this is not as important as giving a vow to join the camp of the blood drinkers. Because if they kill your body, that's not really a big thing, you will get another one. But if you give a solemn vow to join the camp of the blood drinkers, that is serious, and that will stay with your soul for a very long time, or maybe even forever. So stay tuned for the next episode, where we'll see how the story develops during the Great Tribulation with our chap, the Great Deceiver. He will be using a very cunning trick. He will come and tell everybody that I'm here to finally give you freedom from all these corrupt bankers and cabals and New World Order. He will pretend that he is against them, and he will pretend so well that he will even go to the point of turning against the people, the parties who have prepared all this setup for him, just so that he will look like as if he is really Christ. And ironically enough, exactly the types of people who should have been best informed about him, the religious people and those who are against the establishment, exactly those people who will become his loudest preachers and supporters. It will be a very, very sad scene. That's why all sources, Islamic and Christian, they warn us that he will mislead even many good people